Pokemon X and Y are games that I think are widely forgotten about, and that I personally have never played. So, I decided to see if I could beat Pokemon X with Hardcore Nuzlocke rules using only normal types. Let's see how it goes. First, the rules. If a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead and can no longer be used. We can only catch our first normal type encounter per area. The battle style will be set to set. No items from the bag can be used in battle. And we aren't allowed to overlevel the next gym leader's highest level Pokemon before entering the battle. Additionally, for extra challenge, we won't be allowing any Mega Evolutions in this run. Our run kicks off and we meet our huge group of useless friends who serve no purpose in this game, except giving us the ridiculous nickname of Lil D. Next, we get to choose our starter. This doesn't matter too much since none of them are normal type, but we do want to give our rival Chestnut, who has a fighting type, to make it a little bit harder. So, we go with Froakie. We head back to our house to say bye to our mom before our adventure, and Rhyhorn wants to say bye too. Rhyhorn also wanted to say, if you like the video, you should click the like button and subscribe for more content. Wow, you're a natural, Rhyhorn. Anyway, we head up to Route 2 and we take 2 steps and we find our first encounter, a Pidgey. We nickname him Schmidgy and we're already well on our way to building a team. Then we head into the Chandelure forest. There, we find our next encounter, a Fletchling. This isn't too great because Fletchling's evolutions actually lose the normal type, so we can't evolve it. But it's better than nothing, right? We head out of the forest and find our next encounter, an Azurill.
Sucks.
This has the same situation as Fletchling, where the evolutions lose the normal type, so we can't evolve this one either. This is disappointing because this means we're going to miss out on one of the 3 of Bunnelby, Bidoof, or Litleo. And we definitely want all 3 of those, but it's okay. Before challenging the gym, we can actually grab another encounter east of the city, on Route 22. Here, we actually managed to find a Litleo, which evolves into Pyroar, which is an extremely strong special attacker. With its strength in mind, we give it the extremely creative nickname, Lion. And from here, we train up and head into the gym. Viola tries to get in our head by taking a picture of us without our permission. Nice try, Viola. Anyway, Viola specializes in the bug type, and she leads with the Surskit. Knowing this, I put in Fletchling first, who has Peck, which should hit Surskit super effectively. We trade a couple Pecks for a couple Bubbles, and she brings in her ace, Vivillon. For an early game Pokemon, this Vivillon hits super hard with Infestation, and it makes it so you can't switch your Pokemon out, so you can't save your team members. Luckily, she decides to go for 2 Hardens, so we get some chip damage in with Peck. Then she decides to use Tackle instead of Infestation, which allows us to save Fletchling by switching in Pidgey. From here, it's as simple as a few gusts to knock out the Vivillon. And just like that, we have our first gym badge. From here, we move north on Route 4 towards Lumiose City, the capital. And we manage to catch our next encounter, a Skitty. Before we enter the city, we're introduced to some more useless characters. They do one useful thing and give us the TM for return, which will be very strong in this run. Then we enter my least favorite city of any Pokemon game ever, Lumiose. Navigating this city is an absolute nightmare. I don't know what they were thinking. Anyway, we head over to the professor's lab where we're introduced to the least evil looking person I've ever seen, Lysander. Yeah, definitely nothing up with that guy. Anyway, we head west out of the city and find our next catch, a Furfrou. This dog is delightful, and we accidentally name him Doof, trying to name him Dog. Then we see that he has a bold nature, which is quite good because it increases his defense, which, coupled with his ability Fur Coat, is awesome. This thing is going to be an absolute tank. From here we move on to the Parfum Palace and run into the scariest trainers we've encountered yet. This nice looking family is anything but, and their 2 Furfrous managed to take out Azurill and Skitty. These aren't too huge losses, but it's still the principle, you know? With a heavy heart, we defeat them and then find our next encounter, a Sentret, which we almost immediately evolve into a Furret. Then we head to the Parfum Palace where we're extorted by this man, and we help this random guy find his dog. And our friend talks about how good of friends we are, but it's a little bit awkward because we don't feel the same way. Anyway, there's a firework display too. I don't know. This is all very weird. We grab the Pokeflute from the palace, and this allows us to unlock our next very strong catch, a Snorlax. We wake this sleepy boy up from his afternoon nap and then immediately imprison him forever inside of a Pokeball. And we call him Sleepy. Sleepy has a careful nature, which is a special defense up and special attack down, which is probably the best nature you can get on a Snorlax. Then we move on to the connecting cave and we catch a Whismur, shortly followed by a Tailo, who we nickname Bird. We get to ride a Rhydon on some cliffs, and then we head into the experimental 3D fun zone, where we're introduced to Team Flare, which has no relation to Lysander, okay? Our next encounter is also here, which is a strong one, Kangaskhan. We nickname it Kanga and then grab the Rock Smash TM, which is going to come in handy for the next gym, which is Rock type. Some Rock Smash, Rock type foreshadowing for you. We continue our rock theme with some rock climbing, all the way up to the top of the rock to fight Grant, the Rock type gym leader. Now without a fighting type move like Rock Smash, this gym would be very scary, but with Rock Smash, it's not too much of an issue. We lead with Doof and take out Amora with a couple Rock Smashes. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Doof is actually wearing the Rocky helmet, which does some nice chip damage whenever the opponent makes contact with him. We managed to get the Tyrant down to low HP with this chip damage and some rock smashes, but Grant uses a Hyper Potion. And Doof has taken too much damage to this point, so we're forced to switch to Kangaskhan, who cleans up the Tyrant with a couple rock smashes. With the second gym badge in hand, we head north to Route 10. And we pick up an Eevee along the way. As we're trying to head out of town, we're ambushed by the next gym leader, Karina. Karina specializes in fighting types, which are very scary for our normal types. And in this fight in particular, she has a different team, with 2 Lucarios on it. Both of these Lucarios know Swords Dance and Power Up Punch, both of which raise their attack. So we lead with Pidgeotto to use Feather Dance and lower their attack sharply. We keep the attack low and hit it with some gusts and ultimately knock the first Lucario out. Since the second Lucario is identical to the first, we keep Pidgeotto in and repeat the same strategy. Eventually Pidgeotto gets too low and we have to switch in Swellow. But at this point, the attack of the Lucario is so low that it's not really even a threat, and we knock it out with a few wing attacks. She accepts her defeat, and then we move on to Route 11, where we pick up a Staravia, which is a great Intimidate user with super high attack. We nickname it Mean Bird, because it's mean, and see that it has a relaxed nature, which ups its defense but lowers its speed. Not optimal, but it's fine. Then we head into the Reflection Cave, where they have wild Wobbuffets. Please ban wild Wobbuffets. Luckily, Furret has Runaway, which comes in handy. And we arrive at Shaller City. We sneak out to Route 12 and grab another encounter, a Tauros. This could have been either Chatot, Tauros, or Miltank, and I feel lucky to not get the Chatot. We nickname it Cow and check the nature. It has a gentle nature, which lowers its defense and increases its special defense. That's fine. It also has Intimidate, which 2 Intimidate users on one team is insane in a Nuzlocke. After a brief stop at the Tower of Mastery, we head into the Shaller City Gym, which is just a big roller rink. All the trainers in this gym specialize in fighting types, and that's tough for our normal team. And we end up losing Pidgeotto, Fletchling, and worst of all, Kangaskhan, even before we get to the gym leader. Luckily, Karina is not as tough as the trainers in her gym. We lead with Staravia, who takes out the Mindfu in one hit with an Aerial Ace. Then she sends in Machoke, who knows Rock Tomb, which is super effective against Staravia, so we end up swapping in Tauros to get an Intimidate off and switch out for the Rock Tomb. This Machoke also knows Power Up Punch, so we swap the Staravia back in, who gets another Intimidate off and resists the Power Up Punch. We repeat this dance until the Machoke's attack is so low that we're comfortable keeping Tauros in to take it out. The Machoke goes down and then she sends in her ace, Hawlucha. So we switch Staravia back in to get the Intimidate off, and then take it out with 2 Aerial Aces. And that means we've gotten our 3rd gym badge and passed the hardest gym for us yet. Then we get to ride a goat. And on our way to the next gym, we catch a Chatot. The only hard thing about this next gym is climbing the ropes to the gym leader. We have a team of fast, strong flying types, so there's nothing Ramos's grass types can really do to us. This fight ends up being easier than most random Team Flare encounters. And through a series of elite tactical strikes, Staravia takes out the whole team with Fly. Oh, and Aerial Ace for the Weeping Bell. Then we leave the gym in style. I did find out between my 2 streams that Helioptile is a normal type, so I go back and grab that encounter. Adding an electric type to the team is great coverage. And from here, we head into the power plant where some evil stuff is going down or something. I don't know. We just dispatch them quickly and they're all mad. And of course, once the action's done, these 2 kids in superhero costumes show up to take the credit. Then we're introduced to another character that I don't care about. And in preparation for the electric gym, we pick up the Dig TM and the Bulldoze TM. Suddenly, we find ourselves on Pokemon's hottest game show.
Who's that Pokemon?
It's Pikachu!
We crush the quiz and then we move on to the gym leader, who's some scientist kid named Clement who specializes in electric types. Luckily, our whole team can pretty much learn ground type moves. So we lead with Snorlax, who knows Bulldoze. We do expect his Emolga to use Volt Switch on the first turn, which he doesn't do, so we miss a Bulldoze. Not too big of an issue though, we take it out without too much damage with some Body Slams. Next up is a Magneton who sets up electric terrain. And thanks to Bulldoze lowering its speed, it doesn't do too much else other than that. Oh, and drink some Hyper Potions. Finally, Heliolisk comes in, and we hit 2 Bulldozes on it, and it goes down. It does get close to taking out the Snorlax, but I was never worried. Next, we head out to Route 14, where we meet up with our friends again and embarrass our rival. Then we head into the spooky swamp, and then we head into the spooky house, where we hear some spooky stories about some spooky people, and I don't understand this part of the game at all. Moving on, we go into the Fairy type gym, and we challenge the gym leader Valerie. This is a perfect time to show off our newly evolved Pyroar and its flamethrower capabilities. The Mawile goes down in one flamethrower and then Mr. Mime comes in. He does a little bit too much damage to the Pyroar, so we have to switch in Snorlax. Snorlax is a special defense tank, so Mr. Mime can only really just tickle him, and we take him out through a series of body slams. Next up is her ace, Sylveon. While fighting Mr. Mime, we managed to boost our special defense up to max through a series of amnesias, which made the Sylveon able to do almost 0 damage to Snorlax. So we take it out over time with some body slams. Next up, we arrive in Dendemil Town, and we do some story stuff in this frozen cave. And for some reason, that allows us to progress. And we get to ride a Mamoswine. Neat. From here, we move into the next gym, which really blows my freaking mind. And we progress to the gym leader, who is just the lord of this plane or something. Her name is Olympia, and she specializes in psychic types. Her whole team is made up of special attackers, so we lead with Snorlax. Before taking out the Sigilglyph, we make sure to max out our special defense using Amnesia. Once we're +6 on special defense, we take out the Sigilglyph, and her Slowking comes in. We put it to sleep using Yawn because we don't want it to get too many Calm Minds off. Then we take it out with some body slams. Finally, her ace Meowstic comes in, which is not a threat because we're +6 on special defense, and we take it out. Not too bad of a gym. And we go outside, and it turns out, okay, Lysander was evil the whole time. Wow. Who could have seen this one coming? He puts out an announcement that feels more like a cry for help than really anything else. And so we have to go stop him through a series of Pokemon battles. At this point in the game, you fight Lysander basically 3 times back to back, so I'm only going to show the last battle, which is the most exciting one. But before we get to that, we get ambushed by an unskippable cutscene. And between some of the Lysander battles, we do have to battle his lieutenants. They're pretty meh overall, but Xerosic is kinda tough. His team is only 2 Pokemon, but it's a Crobat and a Malamar. And this Malamar has Contrary. Contrary makes it so moves that lower your stats normally, raise your stats instead. And this Malamar knows Superpower, which is a 120 power fighting move that lowers your attack and defense, but for this Malamar, it will increase its attack and defense, and it's super effective against my team. On top of that, 2 of my best Pokemon for this fight have Intimidate, which will raise this Malamar's attack when they enter the battlefield. But first, we have to deal with this Crobat, who's already done big damage to Tauros. So we swap in Staravia. Unfortunately, the Crobat outspeeds our Staravia and gets 2 flinches off on his air slashes. So we end up having to bring in Snorlax. This battle is not going well so far. Thankfully, the Snorlax is able to take out the Crobat without taking too much more damage. But then the Malamar comes in and gets big damage off with a superpower, but we fire back with a Yawn to put it to sleep. Then we swap in the dog to soak up the next superpower, but the AI uses Psycho Cut instead. With the Malamar asleep, we're free to set up some Cotton Guards to max out our defense and start hitting this thing with Return. It wakes up and hits us with Payback, but it's a little bit too late, and we take it out with Return. From here, the scientist asks us to push a button to activate the weapon for some reason. I pushed the button to activate it to destroy the story, but it didn't work. All it got me was another monologue from Lysander. And another consecutive evil base to fight through. We fight through, and we catch the legendary in the basement that the game makes us catch, and then Lysander comes into the basement to show us his Halloween costume and challenges us to a battle. Hold on. Does this look familiar to anyone? That's very suspicious. Anyway, the final battle against Lysander takes place on the surface of the sun, and he leads with a Mind Shout, which is pretty scary because it outspeeds our whole team and has super effective moves against us. So we lead with Mean Bird to get an Intimidate off on it and hopefully soak up the damage from the first attack. This plan works. We take a high jump kick and we use Fly, which thankfully hits and takes out the Mind Shout. Next he sends in a Pyroar, so we swap to Snorlax for the high special defense. We're worried about this thing getting too much damage off on us, so we hit it with a Yawn. It falls asleep, which allows us to switch to Heliolisk, and we finish it off with a Surf. We want to switch in Heliolisk here because his last 2 Pokemon are weak to Electric. With the Pyroar down, he swaps in Honchkrow, which we take out with a super effective Thunderbolt. And finally, he brings in his Gyarados. This thing is going to Mega Evolve, which actually takes away the Flying type and makes it so Thunderbolt from Heliolisk won't be a one-hit KO. Knowing this, we swap in Staravia to get an Intimidate on it. Then we swap in our defensive wall Duff, who uses a couple charms to lower its attack and lands a Toxic. After a few hits, he's too low to stay in, so we swap in Tauros to land the final attack drop with Intimidate. At this point, the Gyarados is low enough that we can take it out with one final return from Tauros, and the world is saved. Next up is the final gym, which is in Snowbell City, but the gym leader isn't home. So we head into the Winding Woods, where we catch a Noctowl, and we find the gym leader and tell him to get back to work. The gym leader Wulfric specializes in ice types, which should be pretty easy for us. Spoiler alert, it is. Pyroar outspeeds everything in this gym and takes them out with flamethrowers. And with the final gym out of the way, we're finally ready to go to Victory Road and then challenge the Elite Four. But first, we have to catch an Ursaring. And unfortunately, through reckless use of fast forward, we lose Tauros. So we go give our dog a haircut to make ourselves feel better, and then catch a Lickitung. And then we evolve it into this monstrosity. Ugh. A common theme in my Nuzlockes is that I lose focus in Victory Road and always have silly deaths. So instead of trying to focus all the way through Victory Road, which I know I can't do, I bring the B team. This strategy backfires when our rival ambushes us and absolutely demands a battle. I wasn't too worried because up until this point, all the rival battles have been super easy, but before this battle, he upgraded his team big time. We had Licky Licky at the front of our party when this battle started, which is decent because we taught it a bunch of good coverage moves, and so it's able to take out the Meowstic. Next he sends in his Ace Chestnut, which is grass and fighting type, so it's pretty hard countered by Staraptor. We outspeed and take it out with one Brave Bird. Then he sends in his Vaporeon, who knows Aurora Beam, which is super effective against Staraptor. So we bring in Exploud. He gets some decent chip damage off, but Vaporeon's special attack and special defense are just too high, and we go down to a critical Muddy Water. So we bring in Licky Licky to finish it off with a Thunderbolt. Next up, he sends in his Altaria. We manage to barely live a Dragon Pulse, and due to an accuracy drop, we actually miss our Ice Beam. So with a heavy heart, I decide to sacrifice Licky Licky for a free switch. And then we bring in our Special Wall Noctowl. We trade a ton of hits here, and Noctowl heals through Roost, but ultimately Altaria takes its special attack too far down with Confide. And so we swap in Pyroar to finish it off. We finish off the Altaria, and then he brings in his last Pokemon, Absol. This thing has Super Luck and Night Slash, so it's 50% that it gets a critical on us. So we decide to use Will-O-Wisp to burn it, which cuts its attack stat in half. With the threat of being crit and killed off the table, we finish it off with some Flamethrowers. Wow, I need to be more careful on Victory Road. Oh, Noctowl is dead, okay. Yep, we lost Noctowl to a random trainer. But we got out, and we only had one final stop to make before challenging the Elite Four. We needed to get our Swellow burned. With its ability Guts, Swellow's attack is doubled when it has a status condition. This ability, when used with the move Facade, which also doubles in power when you have a status condition, is insane, especially when used on a fast Pokemon like Swellow. And with that out of the way, we were ready to challenge the Elite Four. Our Elite Four journey kicked off with a splash as we challenged Seabold, the Water-type trainer. Before this battle, I actually ran the numbers, and I found out Heliolisk actually outspeeds his entire team. Not only that, but he also kills everything in one shot with a Thunderbolt. So, as you can see, this went about as you would expect. Heliolisk sweeps, and we move on. Next up, we challenged the Steel-type trainer, Wickstrom. He leads with a Klefki, so we bring in Pyroar, which one-shots it with a Flamethrower, but it sets up some spikes with Prankster. Next up, he brings in Probopass. It's too dangerous to keep in Pyroar because this thing knows Earth Power. So we swap in Snorlax, who we taught Earthquake. Unfortunately, due to its sturdy ability, we aren't able to take this thing out in one shot. Instead, it stays alive for a little bit and soaks up the heals from Wickstrom. Eventually, it does fall to the Earthquakes though. From here, he brings in his ace Aegislash. When in attack mode, this thing has really high attack, and its signature move Sacred Sword is a fighting type move. So we bring in Staraptor to get an Intimidate off on it and soak the first Sacred Sword. Fortunately, it uses King's Shield, which allows us to get a free swap back into Pyroar. Fortunately, it uses Iron Head instead of Sacred Sword, which Pyroar resists. We hit it with a Flamethrower, which isn't quite enough to take it out, and then it uses Sacred Sword. But before the battle, we had given Pyroar a Choptal Berry, which halves the damage from a super effective fighting move. This allows us to live the Sacred Sword and take it out with a second Flamethrower. Finally, he sends in his last Pokemon, Scizor, which is 4x weak to fire. Speaking of fire, next up is the fire trainer, Malva, and she has a very impressive pyrotechnics display. Fortunately, I think she used all her budget on the fire and not on her team. Her lead Pyroar goes down to a Facade from Swellow, and then she brings in Torkoal, who knows Stone Edge, so we have to switch to Dog. From here, we max out our defense with 2 Cotton Guards, and then Toxic Stall this thing down. And yes, you did just see an Earthquake from Torkoal only do 10 damage to Dog. We have to Toxic it 3 times because she uses 2 full restores on it, but not too big of a deal. Ultimately, it goes down without a fuss. Then she sends in her ace Talonflame. Since we're already maxed out on defense and this thing is a physical attacker, we keep Dog in and then Toxic Stall this as well. Next, she's down to her last Pokemon, Chandelure. We swap in Snorlax, who not only has high special defense but also has the Thick Fat ability, which makes it so he takes half damage from fire moves. Not only that, but normal types are also immune to ghost moves, so it only has one move that can damage us other than Confuse Ray. We'd given Snorlax a Person Berry to get through the confusion, but it just confused raised us twice in a row. Doesn't really matter that much though, we just use a couple Earthquakes and take this thing out. Then we're on to the last member, the Dragon Trainer, Drasna. She leads with a Dragolage, which we take out in one Facade from Swellow. Then she sends in Altaria, who also goes down in one Facade from Swellow. Next up is Noivern. Now, it's not a 100% chance that we take this thing out in one Facade, but there's a very good chance. Unfortunately, we get a low roll on the Facade, and we lose Swellow to a Dragon Pulse. This was totally my fault. I didn't take the burn damage into account when thinking about the battle, but Swellow did its job. We swap in Snorlax for cleanup duty, and even through a full restore, we take out the Noivern. Finally, she sends out our last Pokemon, Drutagon. This thing's scary because it does have a fighting type move in Revenge, so we do set up a few Cotton Guards before putting up the Toxic on it, and then Dog's big defense is enough to get through and stall it out until the Toxic takes it out. With Drasna down, we move on to challenge the champion Diantha, who is unironically wearing fairy wings to work. Her team has a Hawlucha and a Goodra that knows Focus Blast, which are both pretty scary for us. Luckily, the Hawlucha goes for a Swords Dance on the first turn, which allows us to take it out with Brave Bird. Then she brings in Tyrantrum, so we bring in the Great Wall of Dog. We increase our defense with some Cotton Guards, and then we hit it with a Toxic. Diantha does use a full restore on it, but it doesn't matter too much, we just rinse and repeat. Next she sends in her Goodra, which is her last really scary Pokemon. We stay in one turn with Dog to use Protect, and burn 1 PP out of 5 for Focus Blast. I was feeling really bold at this point, so I do stay in another 2 turns with Dog to get a Toxic and then another Protect. And at this point, we've burned 3 out of 5 Focus Blast PP, which is great. From here, we decide to spare the Dog and swap in Snorlax. This does mean that we have to take a Focus Blast straight to the face, but we had given Snorlax a Chopped Berry before the battle for this exact moment. The next Focus Blast misses, and that means that move is out of PP, and we're free to start setting up Amnesia to set up for the rest of our team, which is made up of all special attackers. All we have to do is dodge a burn from the Fire Blast, which we managed to do and take out the Goodra. Our Snorlax is in great health and has +4 on special defense. This is looking really good for us. Next she sends in Auroras, and we spend way too long trying to play around the Reflect, and ultimately scrap the idea and just take it out. Her second to last Pokemon is Gourgeist, and I forgot I couldn't hit this thing with Snorlax, so we bring in Mean Bird, and it uses Brave Bird and takes it out in one hit. Finally, she sends in her ace Gardevoir, who Mega Evolves. Since it's the last battle, we send Mean Bird on a kamikaze mission and give him an honorable send-off. From here we bring in Pyroar, and Diantha uses her third full restore, which we were not expecting. We hit it with Will-O-Wisp to burn it, so that the chip damage will eventually take it out if we don't take it out with this Pyroar right now. The second Flamethrower from Pyroar isn't quite enough to take it out, but the burn chip does take it down. And we win the battle without having to bring in another member of our team. And now we're the champion, and for some reason our friends are on the stage at our victory parade with us. I don't know what in the world they did to deserve to be on that stage, but boy are they up there. Also, this guy crashes our party. What is his deal? Anyway, the game makes us battle him, so we whoop him real quick. And now that we've beaten this random old guy, we're definitely champion. And then there's this really emotional moment between this grown man and this flower thing. Anyway, the story of this game is definitely one of the worst, but I did really enjoy playing through it. You can get a really diverse selection of Pokemon for your team in this game, and the Gen 6 mons, overall, pretty awesome. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed doing the challenge. If you liked the video, please click the like button, it really helps me out. And if you want to see more, subscribe to the channel. I'll be making more of these in the future. Till next time, thanks for watching.